We are Rogue Media Sports.
It is the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network and YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts and just kind of anywhere. Gas station pumps, I think. I think they're starting to do that, Zach. I think they're starting to get the Rogue Media Sports Network on there.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the next thing. I know that's where I see Maria Menounos talk about her podcast the most. So
that's big. Dude, Maria Menounos. Is that weirdly like a great career move?
I mean, she
was kind of famous.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
especially a while ago, but now everyone knows her voice.
That's true.
And maybe I'm overplaying it because like when I go back home to New England, which is where this show is catered to, I don't have a lot of that, like the TV screen at the
gas pump. Well, it's not even like everyone here. Like it's not, but
right,
she is the voice of gas station TV.
Right. You get an update on something from Maria Menounos.
Yeah.
Great Boston native Maria Menounos.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always liked Maria Menounos.
I liked her role in One Tree Hill.
Was she in One Tree Hill?
Short-lived. Yep. This was early. She like catfishes Keith Scott.
Yeah.
Dan Scott pays her to catfish him.
Oh, really?
And of course, she actually falls for him and she can't keep up this ruse anymore when they're going to get married.
Here's the thing that I remember the most about One Tree Hill.
How great it was.
Aside from that, because I did watch too much of it. I'm pretty sure it's the scene with the heart in the carry on where they drop the heart. The transplant for Dan. Isn't he the dad?
Yes.
And doesn't like a dog.
Fucking unbelievable scene.
Yeah.
Yes, he's waiting on a heart transplant. He's a bad dude. And they have it like a cooler. The lady trips or the doctor trips. And a dog just swipes up. For some reason, there's a dog there that just swipes up and eats the heart. It's like unbelievable. Like that. That's how you know, like, there's some bullshit happening.
Oh.
We have jumped the shark. This is unbelievable teen drama. Yeah, I've watched every episode of One Tree Hill, which I mean, whatever. I'm prouder of other things, but I don't care. I love One Tree Hill. It's stupid. It's bad. Like the acting is bad, but I'm so into it. And they do every year like a reunion in Wilmington, North Carolina, where it was filmed. By the way, Wilmington, beautiful town. Absolutely beautiful town. And my girlfriend's sister lives there, and the family has a beach house there. So I've been to Wilmington, and she lives there, and like they had this whole big reunion over the weekend, but she didn't watch One Tree Hill, and I was like, "Fuck, man! Like this is such a like." Gavin DeGraw was there. He's like singing the theme song. They're playing like a charity basketball game with like Nathan Scott. I'm like, I would live for this shit. As a 27-year-old man, I would still live for this shit. And my sister was 8 years older than me. And so she was in high school when they were in high school in the show. So I was exposed to One Tree Hill very early in my life. Do you have this scene? Are you watching it?
I just watched it. I'm going to see if I can get it to where if you want to play it, we can.
I think it would be great if we have that capability.
Let me work on that. But I can tell you the 30-second clip that I just watched with no audio was ridiculous.
Does it give anything away in that 30-second muted clip as to why a dog would even be there?
No, not that I see. I think he's petting the dog. Like he's in the wheelchair. And I think he's petting the dog, but I don't know why the dog is there. And Chad Michael Murray shows up at the end, like after seeing it all. Just kind of, I'm gonna work on finding this.
And I'll bet he sighs.
All right,
I'll bet he puts his hands in his pockets with his shoulders up. Like when you look back at the first few episodes, it's actually ridiculous how dramatic they are. Like even for their standards, you're like, oh my god, why did I ever love this show? But I do. I love that show. I love when the notes hit at the beginning. Dun dun dun. I don't want to be anything other than what I've been. And I'm just in from there, dude. Oh, no.
Oh, it's a great theme song. I got to listen to see it. Yeah. So I'll be back in a second.
I can't wait. This is pausing my big football story of the day because now I need to have this in there for the fans. Of course, I'm starting a Boston-centric show about a UNLV quarterback after this because, of course, that's where I would go. But first things first, One Tree Hill. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's a great show. I just really wish we could see this. Dan Scott, terrible guy, apparently great person in real life.
Really?
And there
Well,
were
that's
some other
nice.
people on the show who were supposed to be great people and weren't in real life.
All right,
And
I have the clip. I'm gonna resize it and load it up for us. And
by
if
the
you want to, we can play it coming out of the segment. And then if you want to get into what you want to talk about,
okay, I do want to do one more thing about Chad Michael Murray,
then go ahead.
who
I
was
might have it done
supposed to
by
be the
then.
breakout star of the show and kind of like had a little bit of a run. He was in A Cinderella Story, which I saw spoofed for an insurance commercial the other day. And I was like, damn, man. Like, I feel old some days already. But now that we're catering progressive commercials to A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff and Chad Michael Murray from 20 years ago, it's like, shit. Talk about a great film there. Oof.
Was that a Disney Channel original movie?
I don't think it was. I don't think it was a DCOM. As close as you could pretty much get to it. Like I'll bet it had a theatrical release. Now I got to look that up. Now I'm fucking sidetracked by Chad Michael Murray's career because I meant to bring up that in like 2014-15 he was in one of those Left Behind movies with Nicolas Cage, like one of those Rapture movies. It's fucking awful. It's so funny to watch, but it's just like, wow, this is Chad Michael Murray's career now. Cinderella, and he was in like House of Wax. Like
with
he
Paris
really,
Hilton?
yeah, like they really tried to get him to have a career. Let's see, it did have a theatrical release. It did have a theatrical release, July 16th, 2004. Grossed $70 million at the box office on a budget of 19. Think about that, like, and it does say it inspired multiple straight-to-video films. So inspired it. But like you have a bunch of cheap actors at that point, like Hilary Duff, Disney Channel, Chad Michael Murray, the CW, Jennifer Coolidge, she's just known as Stifler's mom back then.
Oh yeah.
Like we're talking about some like cheap actors, but ones that your target demographic knows very well. See, that's brilliant to me. That's brilliant filmmaking. Anyway, I do have to get into this Matthew Sluka thing. So the quarterback at UNLV, yes. Why would I start a show with One Tree Hill? Why would I then back it up with a quarterback from UNLV? Because Matthew Sluka did play his college football at Holy Cross the last 4 years and was pretty damn good. Took Holy Cross to what? The quarterfinals, semifinals of the FCS in 22. Like he had a pretty good run. And in fact, Baylor was looking at him, my alma mater. LSU was looking at him in the offseason. And so I did some research on Matthew Sluka. The guy is like the Lamar Jackson of FCS. He ends up going to UNLV, which I know what you're thinking, like, ooh, really? A couple of Power 4 schools looking at him, and he ends up at UNLV. Vegas is a good football team this year. They beat Kansas. Like Matthew Sluka, big reason why. By the way, do you know who UNLV's best ever football recruit is? Or football player?
Ooh. No. Who are you considering the best ever from UNLV?
It's someone you know. It was like a Pro Bowl, maybe even an All-Pro in the NFL.
Receiver?
Quarterback, dual threat quarterback, NFC East, 80s and 90s.
Oh, Antoine Randall. That's Indiana. Randall Cunningham.
Quarterback in college. Randall Cunningham. Yeah.
Because Kenny Mayne, he lost out, or he beat out Kenny Mayne for the starting quarterback.
Is that real? Is that for real?
I think Mayne might have been his backup. I don't think that he was ever like in legit like starting contention with Cunningham.
The way Todd Helton was Peyton Manning's backup.
Yeah.
Although Todd Helton started some games for Tennessee the year before, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Randall Cunningham, I think, is the best ever to come out of UNLV. More of a basketball school over the years. But Matthew Sluka makes waves today because after a really good start to the season for UNLV, he puts out this statement on Twitter. It was late last night. And he said, I committed to UNLV based on certain representations that were made to me, which were not upheld after I enrolled. Despite discussions, it became clear that these commitments would not be fulfilled in the future. He is redshirting and transferring. He's in the portal. He's left his team because NIL has not been upheld on his end. All of a sudden, this is in year 3 of the NIL era. This is the first public story that we know of of a player leaving a program because the commitments were not held up for his NIL. And I'm telling you, this guy, he had NIL options. It's not like he was making $1 million, but he had some options coming out of FCS. Marcus Cromartie, Sluka's NIL agent, told Pete Thamel that the quarterback was, quote, verbally promised a minimum of $100,000, end quote, by an assistant coach if he transferred to UNLV, and that none of the money was paid. Sluka's dad has said none of the money is paid. Now some mouthpieces for UNLV says the money has been paid. He just thought he was going to make some more now that UNLV is off to a good start. So I don't know who to believe here, but either way, Matthew Sluka has left the program, and it is because of money. Man, the old heads around college football today are losing their minds. And me, a young head, a believer in NIL, is like, this isn't good. This is not good. Like, I understand that the way things were done before was archaic, draconian. Oh, you're getting a free education. But the limits on these athletes were incredible. They couldn't do anything. They could not make any source of income. Whereas if I was a student on full scholarship, I would be allowed to work. I could make an income. I could go work a regular job. I could work OnlyFans. I could run a gambling ring on my campus. I could run, fantasy football leagues, bracket pools. I could do all of that. College athletes could do none of that. If I was a student on full scholarship and a professor wanted to take me out to lunch and pay for it, they could do that. Nothing would happen to me. But an athlete, no way, no how. So I understand that we needed NIL, and I think NIL is a good thing overall. I think there's some kinks they need to work out, and there's some things that are unfair about it, and there are some ways that schools have circumvented NIL in order to pay their players directly, which we all know is right on the horizon as well. But Matthew Sluka is not getting the money he thinks he was promised, and he is out. He is taking a redshirt year and entering in the portal to see if he can make some more money last year. This goes on from Pete Thamel, by the way, saying the only money Sluka has received from UNLV is a $3,000 relocation stipend for his move from Worcester to Vegas. Cromartie said there was never an ask for more money after UNLV's hot start, only the initial amount he was promised up front. Now, that becomes the other wrinkle in this, because there's other reports coming out around UNLV beat people or people around the UNLV program who are saying, no, he was paid, but then he asked for more money because UNLV is good now, and he's been playing well. And obviously, that sounds like it's coming straight from UNLV. There's a wrinkle to this, too, that I find very interesting, and it could be somewhere in the middle. And if this is true, Zach, this is terrible for college football. And that wrinkle could be, look, there were some bigger programs that were looking for Matthew Sluka in the transfer portal. He ends up at UNLV. And maybe he has been paid something. Maybe he hasn't been paid all of what he's owed. And maybe he did ask for more money after a hot start. But I think there's also the possibility that one of these programs that was looking for him in the offseason, or ones that are hoping to, thought they should have pursued him a little harder, are now probably reaching out to him like, hey, you still got a red shirt. You can still red shirt here, and you can come to us. I know they were going to pay you $100,000, and they're only paying you whatever. Like, we can pay you $500,000 to come play here next year. Just take that red shirt, get another year of eligibility, and you can come to us. That would obviously be illegal, but would that shock you if that's what's going on here?
No, not really.
Like, from what you know about college football?
No, and that's the thing is I am reading, I've told you a little bit about it with the stories I'm going through. There's a book called The System by Jeff Benedict, and I can't remember who he co-wrote it with, but it's full of stories like this.
Armin Katayan?
I believe you're right.
Another Armin Katayan book.
And so it just seems like with the stories they tell of, like, there will be people who will try to find a way to skirt around anything you do. All right, you made this legal now. Like, and that's just something you're not going to be able to stop. So even if I'm not going to say, like, oh yeah, there's a lot of programs already dealing with it, you can't tell me that the potential of one program looking at that and trying to find a way around that doesn't exist already.
College football is the slimiest industry in all of sports, maybe even more so. Maybe you need to take on Wall Street. Like, It's that slimy. The NCAA is that slimy. These big-time programs are that slimy. Shoot, I've even seen some big-time high school football programs that are pretty slimy, right? We've seen that.
Yep.
There's so many ways around this. So a coach can't reach out to Matthew Sluka and say, hey, you come here to LSU or Florida or somewhere like that. We'll give you $500K. But a booster can do that. Not on any uncertain terms. Hey, Matt, real big fan of your work. I might have some business opportunities for you. How about you give me a call? And then, hey, yeah, I'm a big booster at Florida State. You come here, you use that red shirt. You think 100K is fun? How about 600K? And you can come be our starting quarterback in Tallahassee. That can happen like that. And that, to me, we don't have a report of that yet, but being around college football, man, that wouldn't surprise me at all because this bugs me. This is kind of what life is like in terms of if you're promised money, you should be paid that money. In fact, I was telling you about something the other day where I hadn't been paid yet for something I do on the side on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And if that hadn't come in, which it did come in this week, but if that hadn't come in, I wasn't going to show up on the weekend. That is kind of how the real world works. You do need to look out for you and your bottom line, like a lot of the time in the real world. But here in college football, it does bug me, and maybe it shouldn't, that he is walking out on his team. They're off to a hot start. He's off to a hot start. He's walking out on his team because, he's not getting paid enough. Like that stinks for the, 100 people in that locker room with him that wear the pads every Saturday and go to practice with him every day that now don't have their quarterback because he's not making enough money.
Yeah.
That bugs me, man. That bugs me a lot. And again, maybe it shouldn't as someone who is like looking out for his own career too.
Well, we would have to think, I just think once it got to the point of where, like, obviously, players are getting paid, that there would eventually be an athlete who would feel like, all right, I'm not getting paid enough, and would switch because of that. Like, I think like that, whether it be worded as like, oh, I can grow my brand more at University X compared to here, or however it is, like, we were going to see it eventually. So, I mean, I'm not like shocked by it at all, really.
And he's like coming in like special packages. He was a great runner. But they're 2-0 against the Big 12 this year. They've beaten Houston. They've beaten Kansas. Like, this is a good Vegas team. Like, they're one of those teams that could be, challenging for one of those, group of 5 playoff spots. And now they don't have it. This is a potentially a watershed moment in the NIL era of college football, for better or for worse. However you think about this kid, he's walking out on his team because he's not getting enough money. A holdout in the middle of the season. Not even a holdout. He's using a red shirt. He's leaving. A walkout in the middle of the season because he's not getting enough money in college football. It's certainly going to change some things. And it does make you wonder because you got to play. It's now 4 games until it used to be you appear in 1 game, your red shirt's gone. Now it's 4 games. So he's only played in 3 and probably went in there this week and said, hey, now or never, where's my money? And so there's not as many guys who can do it now because most teams have played 4 games, but Matthew Sluka is not going to be the last one to do this.
No.
And honestly, I'm a little surprised it's taken a couple years into NIL. We've already got players opting out of bowl games every year for injury assurance or whatever. This is going to happen again and again and again. Because what about that, that running back who's taken 25 hits a game who also hasn't gotten paid? And he's thinking, shit, man, quarterback who's not even the starter is doing this? Like, I'm not getting my money either from whether it's UNLV or Georgia Southern or Montana and the FCS or the University of Texas. This can go all the way down the gamut here of anyone who's getting paid. This lot can now cross their mind of, I can just leave. I can just redshirt and hit the portal, and I can go get my money somewhere else if it's not coming here. And that is interesting to me for a group of 5 team that on the surface has seemed to have been doing well with NIL, like UNLV. to not be able to do this. And by the way, big picture here, UNLV is getting an invite to the new Pac-12. And do you think the Pac-12 looks at this like, oh, we're desperate and we need this market, but can these guys pony up money? Like they can't even pay their players right.
Yeah, I think the headline yesterday was that they were reconsidering it now that Utah State accepted their invite to the Pac-12.
So sad,
like UNLV had declined it. Well, because apparently the Mountain West had made a pitch of like, I don't know. I think it was UNLV was one of the teams, but they were going to get a larger sum of the money because they were like a lynch.
Yeah, like you're our team.
Exactly. They were one of the
linchpins
of the Mountain West. But now that Utah State left, they like paused and they're like, well, I don't know what we're going to do now, is what I was reading.
I think the Pac should be looking at Vegas more. I mean, now that we know Vegas can be a sports market, it's not ever going to be like a big time college football market. None of those teams that are going to the Pac-12 are, but you at least have a TV market there. Anyway, I'm going to get in the weeds of college football, but a kid from Holy Cross is setting the bar on NIL. Oh, I wonder how Bob Cousy thinks about this. Speaking of Bob Cousy, speaking of the Boston Celtics, it was media day yesterday. All kinds of great sound bites. Everything's going so well. They're going to win the championship again, and maybe even a Jayson Tatum MVP. But Tatum also told us about something tangible that he's working on that could get him to the MVP. Do we have the One Tree Hill video? I'd love to. I don't want to come on after this. I'd like for that to send us to break. Yes.
All right.
I'd love for that to send us to break.
Dr. Casper to ER. Dr. Casper to ER. Nurse Henderson to admitting. Nurse Henderson to
It is the Cam Show. It's Rogue Media Sports Network. God, that video is funny. Like, that is, like, we have run out of ideas. It's a classic soap opera. Like, we've run out of ideas. Something crazy needs to happen. Doctor trips, hearts on the floor. It might be contaminated by then. I
would
don't know
think
if you can use it
so.
by then.
No.
And then, like, 5 seconds later, a dog just goes, I'll just go grab this, walks out with it.
I love how
Chad Michael Murray's like,
and then just they shared that stare. I also love that how Dan was petting that dog before it betrayed him. But betrayed by a man's best friend as he steals the heart he was going to have.
much like betraying your own brother in a way.
Oh,
Like if you murdered your brother. But Dan Scott wouldn't know anything about that.
not at all.
Wouldn't know anything about that. Anyway, One Tree Hill is about basketball, damn it. And I'm here to talk basketball. The Boston Celtics, God's gift to the game of basketball, the defending world champions who will unveil that 18th championship banner in a couple weeks. Well, yesterday was media day. Training camp is underway. And so, of course, Zach, you follow these media days. It's all great stuff. Nothing bad.
Yeah.
Especially when you've come off a championship.
No.
Nothing bad. And you get the players, you get the coaches in there. You talk about, how great the summer's been and how you can fuel yourself for another title. We talked about that yesterday. Tatum was saying Joe Mazzulla was more happy than anyone to know that I didn't win the finals MVP and got 2 DNPs in the Olympics because that would motivate this team. And I said it was the perfect scenario for Mazzulla. He had a great team. They knew how to win a championship. They won a championship, and people are still disrespecting them. So here we go. Bring it on. That's like as perfect as you can get if you're Joe Mazzulla in terms of motivating your team. Now, there's been a popular question around NBA annals really the last year or so. I know it's a question Bill Simmons has asked a lot. And that question is there another level for Jayson Tatum? Because he's been a top 5 player in the NBA the last 3 years. All NBA first team the last 3 years. He's now won a title. He was the first guy to lead his team to the finals when leading the team in points, assists, and rebounds. First guy ever to do that. And so, there's these great numbers. As much as you want to disrespect Jayson Tatum, there's some pretty great accomplishments he's gone through so far. He's won a title quicker than LeBron and Michael Jordan did and was the best player on the best team. And is he top 3 in the league? No, he's not. I've said that on here before. He's probably somewhere between 4 and 6 at any given time. And, he gets outplayed in the finals by Jaylen Brown. So that discourse continues. Is he just overrated? Does he just need a great team around him? And not the question of, does he make a good team a great team? Does he make a great team even better? Does he do a lot of things even when he's not shooting the ball well? And those answers are yes, by the way. Those answers are all yes. And it all ties into the question of whether Jayson Tatum can get better. He's 26, should be entering his prime here, but he's been in the league for 7 years now, and people now ask, is there another plane for him to get to? And a lot of experts around the NBA say no. And I'm like, why not? Why can't he be better? And one of the things that I have pointed out over the last year or two of where he can get better, he can become a better three-point shooter. He absolutely can. And Jayson Tatum talked about his trainer, Drew Hanlon, who's been working with him specifically the last few weeks to make that jump shot better. And so he's asked the question, what have you been working on? How can you get better? Jayson Tatum says, look, you haven't seen the best of me yet.
Overall, I can still get better. I'm not at. You haven't seen the best version of Jayson Tatum.
Oh, y'all heard that?
And you shouldn't,
That's
right?
scary.
I'm only 26. I should continue to keep getting better.
Of course he can get better. He's only 26 years old. We haven't even hit the prime age yet. Everyone says 27 for an athlete. That's the prime. He hasn't even hit that yet. Of course he can get better. We saw LeBron do otherworldly things by age 27, right? That would put you around 2011, 2012. And he got better after that. Like, he was already the best player in the league, but he started incorporating things into his game after that. He became a better shooter after that. He became a better post-up guy after that. He became a better passer after that. There's no reason to think Tatum can't become a better player just because he's really good at age 26. And you look at the three-point numbers, it's straight up just not been good the last couple of years. He was a 40% three-point shooter in 1920, and the next year, which was his best offensive year, he was a 39% shooter. And since then, 35%, 35%, 37%. And in the playoffs last year, it was like 28% from three. It was bad. And you see it, and it's like, that doesn't look like the same shot it was a few years ago. So automatically right there, yes, there is a path for Jayson Tatum to become a better player. And it starts with that three-point shot. Now, he says he's working with Drew Hanlon, and he's focusing on the shoulders. There's a good soundbite from Dante DiVincenzo, who became a 40% three-point shooter for the Knicks this year. And he said, when it was playing in Golden State, I could see it. Steph Curry, he didn't even so much care about where his legs were when he was shooting, so long as his shoulders were in the right place. And that's what Tatum says he's working on next. That's what it needs to be. And that's what he is saying he's working on. And to answer that question from before, can Jayson Tatum become a better player? Of course he can. Of course he can. I think he's disrespected now, but there's no reason why he can't become a better player. And if he becomes a 40% three-point shooter again, look out. Look out, rest of the league, because he is going to be a top 3 player if he gets that number back up to 40%. I said about Jaylen Brown last week. If he gets to a 38, 39, 40% three-point shooter, he becomes a top 10 player undoubtedly in the league, if you don't think he's already one right now. So that's what's scary about this Celtics team is they are already really great. They won 80 games throughout the season and won the NBA title, 16-3 in the playoffs. And they can be better. They can be better. And they're not going to have Porzingis for a while. I'm going to talk about him in a few minutes. They're not going to have Porzingis for a while during this season. And their 2 best players can become better three-point shooters. And the Celtics are already the best three-point shooting team in the league. So, yeah, this could be scary. This could be really scary good. And I am so excited to watch this team this year. I know you want to have Porzingis to like Christmas, but I don't see any way where this Celtics team is not just running over teams again. And yet I've still got big bloated Kendrick Perkins on ESPN telling me that nobody's scared of the Boston Celtics. Nobody's scared of them. It's like, well, maybe they're not because they're professionals and they're grown men. But in terms of fans, you should be. Because this team maybe has not played its best basketball yet. Their best player just told you he hasn't played his best basketball yet. And if he hasn't played his best basketball with his MVP finishes in the last few years, he can be an MVP in the next year or two. The way the Celtics play a team brand of basketball, it's not really conducive to a guy winning an MVP. As you just saw last year, they were the best team in the league and they had one All-NBA guy. But if Tatum can bring those shooting numbers up to 40%, he can absolutely get there. I hope he values the NBA title more, and I assume he probably does. But if that's something he wants to get, he has the blueprint here. If you become a better three-point shooter, he becomes one of the top scorers in the league. He finished top 6 in the MVP the last 3 years, 6th, 4th, and 6th. I thought he had a real shot at it in 22-23, especially during the first half of that season when Missoula ball was taken off, and he was obviously a huge reason why. So, man, that's got to be scary for the rest of the league. If Jayson Tatum wins an MVP and he's got a championship and potentially wins another one or two, like, I hate to quote him and quote Steph Curry, but like, what are they going to say then? How are you going to try to discredit him then? By the way, I saw he was at the premiere, Zach, of that starting five, that Netflix starting five, which I had forgotten about because of this. I'm now locked into this NHL thing.
Yeah.
Another great move by the NHL because starting five is being released on October 9th. I found out today. I saw Tatum at a premiere. I'm like, oh shit, it must already be on Netflix. Nope, October 9th. And the NHL one's coming out October 4th. They let the NBA hype up their own thing. They dropped their own trailer a week before and says, oh yeah, it's going to be out before the NBA one. Snaps for you. Poetry snaps for you, NHL. I'm going to go over some more Celtic stuff and really a grab bag because I just found out Pete Souza is not going to be in this next segment. Thank you, Pete. We're going to have a bit of a grab bag. I did have something on the back burner that I'm going to use. That's coming up on the Cam Show next. All right, it's the Cam Show. It's Rogue Media Sports Network. And we talked with Pete yesterday, Zach. I'm going to key you in here. You're a big part of this.
Okay.
And we kind of all laughed at the Clippers, which is easy to do, okay? And we did that because the Clippers are now the only team in the NBA that don't have a retired number nor have plans for a retired number in the near future.
Exactly.
And it was shocking how much that made sense. Because like in the NHL, the Leafs did not retire numbers for years, but it was like this moral high ground thing. They obviously had players that were worthy of getting their number retired.
Mm-hmm.
The Clippers like kind of don't. Blake Griffin, yeah, whatever. Like to me, the retired number is the highest honor you can get with a team.
Yes, I would agree.
And so I would think most of the time you should be a Hall of Fame player who played a majority of your career there. There are some sentimental ones that I understand.
Okay.
That I get. There was that guy with the Astros who died. They retired his number. Bill Masterton died on the ice for the North Stars. His number's retired. And there are some who like give their life to that franchise. Johnny Pesky has his number retired with the Red Sox. He was a part of the Red Sox organization for like 60 years. So like, I understand that.
Yeah.
And then there's the opposite side of like the Boston Celtics, who will just retire anyone's number who was halfway decent and played on a championship team. They have 22 retired numbers.
Looking through all these, they are by far and away the team that has the most.
Yes. Yeah. The Celtics are really lenient with it. The Yankees are pretty lenient with it. And again, that's what's weird is like those are two great franchises. Like they could have a good amount of retired numbers, even if they just had their all-time greats. In fact, Zach, you are a learned NBA fan. How about I just real quick run down some of the Celtics retired numbers for you?
Okay.
And see if you know these guys.
Fair enough.
First off, number 1 and number 2 are retired for an owner and a coach / GM.
Yeah. Okay.
I love giving honor to Walter Brown and Red Auerbach, but you don't need to take a number out of rotation. Okay.
No. Yeah. Agreed.
Dennis Johnson,
Yes.
Hall of Famer. Kevin Garnett,
Of course.
Bill Russell.
Oh, my favorite NBA
Here
player.
we go. Like we're on
Yeah.
a good streak now, right? JoJo White.
I've heard of, but I don't like. I know like he played with those teams with Russell in them, right?
At the end, the
Toward
very
the
end,
end,
he was
okay.
more the 70s. So
Okay.
Hall of Fame player, not as memorable. Bob Cousy,
Oh, of course.
already been mentioned in the show. That doesn't count.
No.
Tommy Heinsohn.
No.
You don't know him, and that's okay. But he falls in the Johnny Pesky category as well. Pretty good player. Won Rookie of the Year, and I think runner-up to an MVP one year. Played on those Russell teams. Then coached the Celtics to 2 championships in the 70s.
Okay.
And was a broadcaster for the team for 40 years. That's a Celtic. All right, but here we go now. Satch Sanders.
No.
John Havlicek,
Yes.
all-time leading scorer. Dave Cowens should be. Don Nelson,
Yeah. Is it
Nelly.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Not a great player.
well,
Good
but
player, but has a life in the NBA.
For sure.
Okay.
when you called him Don, I was like, I just always think of Donnie instead of Don.
Don Nelson. Yeah. Casey Jones.
Yes. He
You know
coached
him as a
too, right?
coach. Yeah. 86 was the coach. Cedric Maxwell.
Name sounds familiar.
Like that's what we're talking about, though. You know what I mean? Reggie Lewis.
I know
Honorary
he's a Celtic
guy.
because of 2K.
And
Just-
he died at the peak of his career. And okay, you do a little, but like really the Celtics, it should have Pierce, Bird, Russell, Havlicek, Cousy, Heinsohn, and like then we got a good little run. But like the Yankees have Ron Guidry's number retired. Who the hell knows Ron Guidry? Like in the grand scheme,
the pitcher.
of
I
things.
mean, well, yeah.
Like in the grand scheme, like but I'm saying like he has the honor next to Lou Gehrig and Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth.
I get like the one of
Like
these
we
things
should
is
be
not
putting
like the
Bernie
other.
Williams on that same plane. Paul O'Neill on that same plane. Come
But
on.
no, there should be like a tier, like tiers of
We
the,
should. We should
like-
retire, like temporarily retire. a
Yeah.
number.
or maybe they don't get they like have a picture up there instead of a jersey, but like you're in the ring, like we know
Yes.
that you
Yes.
contributed, but you're not like the Babe or Lou Gehrig or Mickey Mantle or
So all that lead up to bring me to this point, because I'm a sucker for retired numbers. I really am. And we talked about the Clippers not having one yesterday, and they probably don't even really deserve one. And who is that next team in the NBA that shouldn't have one? And what I mean by that is, what is the next team in the NBA with the worst all-time best player?
Well, so that's tough because there's a lot of teams that they have a slew of them. Like, and you're like, oh, okay. Did you know that Zdronis Ilgauskas' number is retired by the Cavaliers?
No.
Yeah, number 11.
Is it really?
And on this list that I have, it shows that it is. Yeah.
What is the classic Ilgauskas moment?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I
What's the
remember him as
classic
my youth.
stat? What do
but-
you know from him other than, his look?
Not much. The thing that was weird to me is, did you know the New Orleans Pelicans do have a number retired? And it's somebody who never
no.
played for the franchise. Okay, this
Oh, I
is
think I know who
aside.
it is.
This
I
is
think I know.
aside from Bill Russell, who a lot of teams have retired
Yeah.
after his death.
Is it someone who was famous in Louisiana?
It is.
The Pistol?
It is.
Like that. I kind of get that, but
But
I still think it's
He
weird.
never played
Didn't
for the
the Heat
franchise.
retire Michael Jordan's number?
I believe they
That's
might have.
very bizarre.
The Mavericks retired Kobe's number.
That's bizarre. I'm sorry. That's weird. That's weird. Like, because
See,
I get it. Kobe was a great player.
the
It's a
Heat
very sad
numbers.
story, but what does he have to do with the Dallas Mavericks? Other than the fact that he could have like challenged Wilt's record against them if he had played.
Yes,
full court.
Michael Jordan's number is retired by the Heat.
Like, why? Why? The Montreal Canadiens put a couple of jersey banners in the forum for a couple of great Montreal Expos. They didn't retire their numbers, but it was like, hey, here's a tribute. But like, that's weird. I'm sorry. That's bizarre. Anyway, it's getting us away from the point.
I do have one
Because there's plenty. There's actually a really good. We're going to do NFL in a second, but there's a good crop here in NBA like to choose from.
This is just another different one, just because I would assume that they would have another jersey retired aside. And I get why this person is, but you want to guess the Minnesota Timberwolves lone retired jersey?
It should be 21.
It should be, but it's not.
The Timberwolves.
It's number 2. It's Malik Sealy.
Okay.
That's the lone Timberwolves retired number. Don't know why KG hasn't got one yet.
I feel like he should have.
Is it
one by
retired
now.
with the Celtics?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Which is like right on the border for me in terms of I give maybe this is going against my own case. I have given a pass to Garnett's number being retired because he was the best player on their championship team and he turned the franchise back around. Like his trade got the Celtics back to a contender after a long time. So anyway, all right. Who is your pick for the NBA one? Because there's a couple of really good ones out here.
Yeah, there are. Man, there's a lot. I liked Ilgauskas was one that just stuck out to me.
We're talking best player in the franchise.
Yeah.
So obviously that would be LeBron.
Oh, for sure. But his number's not retired.
Correct.
Well, he's still playing.
I'm just looking at best player. The guy's number doesn't even need to be retired.
Oh.
Because we talk about like who is the best Clipper of all time. I guess it's Blake Griffin. But like, okay, that's not even a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah.
I'll give you one. The Nuggets before it, now it's going to be Jokic. Is Alex English.
Yeah.
Who's a Hall of Famer, but like
Number 50,
not an all-time great. And I guess you could throw obviously Carmelo in there too, but Alex English probably. Charlotte. Who's the best Charlotte Hornet of all time? I'm looking at a list right now from Planet Sport.
Do you have one? Because I'll see. Obviously, my knowledge is, I think of guys like Larry Johnson. I think of, I don't know. Even if we do like the new look, granted he was a Bobcat for a lot of it. Somebody like Kemba Walker, but they had a lot of players before that then too.
My first thought was Larry
Zoe?
Johnson. My first thought was Larry Johnson. Their pick is Kemba Walker.
Okay.
Love Kemba, but that's sad.
He played with the Bobcats. For a
Yeah,
decent
but it
amount,
was the
too.
same thing.
Yeah,
Charlotte.
true. Fair enough.
But like that's sad.
I mean, Alonzo Mourning was there for a bit, but
yeah.
instead all they have is Bobby Phillips, I think.
Their Clippers pick is Bob McAdoo
See, okay, that's a tough one.
for Buffalo.
Yeah.
When he's playing in Buffalo.
Same thing.
That doesn't count. Like it shouldn't count.
I
but
think that's going to end up having to be, whenever they do it, somebody from those Lob City teams. Like
Just
that's
like-
the best they've been, right?
Yes, it is.
I can't think of anything. Granted,
You're gonna love this next one I've got.
okay.
Best ever for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Okay. Kevin Durant. Russell Westbrook.
Planet Sports pick is Gary Payton.
That is dumb. No. Seattle, sure. Oklahoma City, no. It's like the whole, like we talked about, like why do the Heat have Jordan's number retired?
This is why the Lakers shouldn't claim 17 full championships, by the way. The Oklahoma City Thunder have not won an NBA title. They do not have a 1979 NBA title banner in their arena. Gary Payton should not be considered the best player ever to play for the Thunder.
That's true. Can we talk about their list, though, of the numbers they do have retired? Because Jack Sikma's on the list, too. Spencer Haywood. You remember all those times he played in Oklahoma City?
Sure.
I'm just saying this is all.
Ran that town.
It's so weird to me in this instance
Dennis
where
Johnson, Finals MVP
Yeah.
for the
Oh.
Thunder.
Nick Collison has his number retired.
That is such a fucking reach.
But
That
is he the
such
only
a
one who
reach.
played for Oklahoma
Yeah,
City?
that's probably like, hey, we need someone on there or Oklahoma City. No, like the best player is Durant
Yeah.
and maybe even Westbrook because he played there longer and won an MVP there. But like that's crazy. Orlando Magic.
Oh, Penny Hardaway.
That's
Here-
probably where I would go, but they
I
didn't.
would think Shaq too, obviously,
Yeah.
but I think Penny. He was there just a little bit longer.
For a team that hasn't been around that long, Shaq, Penny, and Dwight Howard, that's not a bad
Oh,
top
Dwight
three.
Howard too. No, that's a good point.
It's not a bad top three.
No Jameer Nelson.
No Jameer Nelson.
All
No
right.
JJ Redick.
All right.
What else we have? Sacramento Kings. This is a funny one too.
Ooh, I don't even know.
You gotta
who the
look. You gotta
Kings
think. You gotta
have.
think of the Gary Payton route.
They want somebody who never played for them.
Oscar Robertson.
Oh, come on. Oh, it is. Shit, it is retired. Number 14 on that list. Come on.
How about Toronto Raptors? This is one of the craziest ones on here.
So it's not the one that. So they're now just about to this season retire Vince's, which will be their first. Who would they want? Oh, Mighty Mouse, Damon Stoudemire.
Nope.
Okay. Am I along the right wavelength?
No.
It's not Tracy McGrady then either.
Nope.
Oh, is it somebody more recent? Is it
Yeah.
Kawhi?
Kawhi Leonard is their pick for the best player in Toronto Raptors history. This could be a controversial decision given the fact that Leonard only spent one season with
That's
the
not
team.
good.
But what a season that was.
No,
Kawhi
yeah.
took the Raptors to a whole new level, carrying them to their only NBA championship in franchise history. The two-time Defensive Player of the Year averaged 28.5 points per game as the Raptors beat the Warriors in 6. That's not enough. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. Like, if it's Kyle Lowry, like that's obviously somewhere in, towards the top of the list of, oh, that's your best player ever. But he played there for over a decade, man. Like, Kawhi, one season. That is so good.
That's not good if you're basing it off of. But I mean, I guess you equate it with titles, then sure. Another one while looking through these lists that just irked me a bit. I know you might have some more names. Is the
I'm
fact
ready to go to NFL.
that
Actually,
the Jazz have the number, and I get why, but it's just the number 1,223 retired
God.
because that's Jerry Salone's wins with the franchise.
I'm sorry. Is there like a more empty record in the NBA than that? Like, it's great. Jerry Sloan won the most games in NBA history. Fantastic. He didn't win a single championship. Like Bill Belichick might not break Don Shula's record for all-time wins. He's second. But like anyone with a brain knows that Belichick's a better football coach than Don Shula. Like, comfortably, by the way. He won 3 times as many Super Bowls as the head coach. Like, I'm sorry. That's all well and good that your guy won 1,200 games, but what? Like, you don't have a championship banner. Who cares, man? It's like Jim. It would be like if Jim Boeheim surpassed Krzyzewski on the all-time list. It's like, congrats. Krzyzewski won 5 national championships. You won 1. Like, who really cares about piling the wins?
Yeah.
That stinks, man. Not like, I guess it should be celebrated, but come on. I find NFL to be intriguing as well because NBA,
Mhm.
like basketball, you just need to have one great player,
Yeah.
right? And you can sell me on most franchises for like their best player being a top 25, 30 guy in the history of the league.
Yeah.
Most of the guys on the list that we didn't mention, you can convince me of that.
Yeah.
NFL, it's tougher. It's
for
tougher.
sure.
It's not dominated by one person. And there are some storied franchises that don't have really, really great players.
No, or just the ones that they went with. As I'm going through this list,
I'm
and
going on
just like,
Yardbarker, by the way,
which
is from this year, from last month.
I have a ESPN article that I'm pulling from. Oh shit, never mind. That's an old one. Let me find a different one because there's probably more in there. They do bring up the fact that, and I didn't think about this, that the Broncos unretired Frank Trupica's jersey so Peyton Manning could wear it.
Yes. Frank Tripucka. Yeah.
Tripucka, sorry. I was thinking of Kelly with the Pistons and got my
yes.
trues messed
Same
up.
one. Same.
Is it really?
Same family. Yeah.
Father, son, or just related?
I think father, son, maybe brothers.
Huh.
I don't know the timeline on that.
All right.
It was probably brothers.
All right, I have one from this year now.
Because I
so
know
we're good.
Jake Tripucka played for Duke lacrosse.
Were they related?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So I've got my pick. I've got my pick
All right, what's yours?
for the NFL. The team with the worst all-time great player. And I do lean towards the Tennessee Titans on this one, which of course is a Houston Oiler.
Yeah.
Bruce Matthews. Okay.
Okay.
He made 14 consecutive Pro Bowls there.
That's solid.
So, like, you don't know who he is because he's an offensive lineman, but he is pretty great. Overall, before I put context into this, I think the worst is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay.
Jimmy Smith. Good receiver. That shouldn't be the best player in your franchise's history.
Yeah.
I know it's not an old franchise, but to me, just on face value, that's the worst.
I get that. And I was thinking, like, looking through these, because there's some where I'm like, and the Panthers only have one in Sam Mills, but the more I thought about it, I mean, Sam Mills is a Hall of Famer. So, like,
And their best player of all time is Cam Newton.
oh, easily. Yeah.
Actually, no, it's Steve Smith. But no, it is. It's Steve Smith. Cam Newton won the MVP.
Yeah. But I think that Sam Mills gets, I get why they get there, because who did they have before that? I don't know, man. Is it?
But then
I think
then
I'm with
look,
you on that. I think it's Jimmy Smith.
But then I say I didn't put the context into it because I do want to put some context into it here. Like, I look at the Raiders. Okay. The Raiders, a storied history, right? From the time of their birth in the AFL in 1960. You can do a laundry list of great players who have played for the Raiders, but you can't have like a top 10 player in NFL history that's played for the Raiders. And so their selection is Tim Brown. Great player, Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
But you're like, you just kind of have that thought, right? Of like, oh, that's it. I personally, I like Howie Long a little bit better, but oh, yeah, I guess Tim Brown. Or I go down to the team formerly known as the Washington Redskins. Darryl Green.
Yeah.
Great player. Great player. Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But you're talking about a franchise that's been around for 80 years, 90 years. And it's like, damn, that's the best. I got this picture with Darryl Green, and in the background is Aeneas Williams on the bench for Arizona. And I'm like, those two guys are about the same player. You know? Bruce Matthews, yeah, it's one that you don't really know because he's an offensive lineman. There's a couple that picked offensive linemen. The Eagles. Are you surprised that the Eagles pick being Reggie White?
A little bit. I mean, solid defensive player, but again, that's another.
One of the best defensive players in the history of the league.
Yeah, the minister of defense, baby.
But he kind of split his career
between there.
I think it was literally like 8 and 7.
In Green Bay.
Yeah.
I believe you're right. I'll look at the switch there.
Or whatever, 8 and 8 in a 16-year career, something like that. So I don't mind that mindset, though. He was really great.
Oh, wow.
And like, I don't think you put in Brian Dawkins just because he played there a little bit longer. Though Dawkins was a great player too. You know, so Reggie White for the Eagles, the Jets sneaky have one of the worst ones. If you look back at the stats, you got to guess on who the Jets' all-time best player is, according to Yardbreaker. Sorry,
Joe Namath.
Joe Willie Namath.
Yeah,
but you look back at the stats, man. Oh, it was not a passing league back then, and he was not a good passer. And so you look at that, and it's like, yeah, the Jets have Joe Namath. The Giants have Lawrence Taylor, the best defensive player in NFL history. The Vikings. That's an interesting one.
I'm trying to get down there to it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to rush.
No, you're good.
But you think about it, like, I'm just worried about like who are the first names you think of? Randy Moss.
Yeah.
Right?
Chris Carter, maybe.
Chris Carter was pretty great. A lot of franchise records.
Yeah.
You know, I think even to like a John Randall or a
I get why they picked who they picked though.
Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not the one you think of. So that's anyway. But think of the ones you think of right away. Dolphins.
Dan Marino.
Patriots.
Oh yeah.
Saints. Giants. Chiefs now. Chiefs have an active player. Those are easy. Colts.
I do have one with this article that I did come across.
I think I know what it's going to be. What is it?
Is it the Pittsburgh Steelers one?
No, I didn't think that one. Hold on, let me see. Let me see, because we gotta wrap this up.
Yeah.
Mm,
I mean, you want to talk about another franchise
uh,
that is known for winning Super Bowls. I'm not
that's-
saying that I would put it is, but there are some guys that play defense for that team that belong to have or that deserve that spot more than
they picked Ben
Roethlisberger.
They picked Ben Roethlisberger.
It's Mean Joe Green. It's Jack
Jack
Lambert.
Lambert.
It's, you know what? Shit, I even take Franco Harris and some of this over. Lynn Swan. Like, come
Jerome
on.
Bettis.
Oh, the bus.
Yeah, Roethlisberger's better than Bettis. But yeah, I would have thought Mean Joe.
He's no Cordell.
No Tommy Maddox. Anyway, that was our
Mike
trip down
Tomczak.
memory lane. What is the NFL franchise with the worst all-time best player? I think it's the Jags. Although Matt Ryan, he did win an MVP though. He did win an MVP. That's a 50, almost 60-year-old franchise.
The Jags even have Tony Baselli's number retired.
That's
Granted, it's an offensive lineman. That's not sexy, but still.
Anyway, that's Zach, who came in big time clutch for me today. We were backed up right against it at the beginning of the show, and then we get no Pete in the middle of the show. He tells us that. So we'll have Pete tomorrow, and I'll be on Pete's show tomorrow as well, I think. That'll be at 1:00 today for Pete Souza. He will be in here with the Pete Souza show. We'll be on every day, every weekday, not on the weekends. I'm not doing that. 11 a.m. Central Time, live on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcast. So we'll see you tomorrow on The Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network.